second. Okay. First things first. So welcome. Again, I'm Michael Forrester. I am a senior technical trainer with WebH Solutions, who is partnering with Booz, as they have done for like 15 years now, to provide certification portals, pathing, and a couple of other things to help you pass the certification. We are also hosting, sponsoring, and teaching the classes. So if you're taking developing on AWS or advanced architecting or machine learning pipeline, those are all going to be through WebH Solutions. I'm here today to talk basically about the program, about certification, and the 4 things you're going to get for free from us around the certification. So first, you're going to get an exam voucher, which I'm going to talk about where that's going to go and how that's going to work. You're going to get an exam voucher that allows you to take the test for free one time. You're also going to get a certification study guide, which is going to allow you to know step by step the things you need to study to build your expertise to pass the certification. Third, you're going to get access to supplemental labs. Some of them are going to be in quick labs. For a few of you, you're going to have to do labs as part of your certification study guide, but we're going to make sure you have access to supplemental labs instead of quick labs. Number 4 is that I'm going to talk about your study exams, or also known as practice exams, because this is going to be the litmus test that you're going to use to determine whether or not you're ready to actually take the exam. These are also going to be provided to you for free. So exam voucher, study guide, access to supplemental labs, and some practice/study labs exams that you're going to get access to. So practice exams provided to you. So I'm going to talk about those 4 things today, including some of the ins and outs and caveats. We're all going to do this in an hour. By the end of this hour, you should know exactly what those 4 things are, where they're going to come from, and exactly the things that you need to do in order to get ready for your certification. Now, you work for Booz, so the fact that Booz likes certification shouldn't be a surprise to you, because for them, it's a great way of determining whether or not you have a clue if you know what you're talking about, especially when they want to put you on projects, right? So they do love certification. If you go to Google, by the way, and you type in AWS certification, one of the top links will be aws.amazon.com/certification, which is going to allow you to take you to the site that you just saw me on. This is where it all starts. And here's the certifications in context. First and foremost, know that you can take any certification with no pre-required class or pre-required certification. So if you're like, hey, I really want to go take the machine learning exam and you don't want to take any other certification, you can do that, and you do not have to take any class or do anything else. You can just sign up for it, go and take it. That being said, there are classes that are typically associated with each of the certifications. For example, if you are a data scientist, you might take the machine learning pipeline on AWS so that you can take the machine learning specialty exam. But I want to be very clear about this. This is probably one of the most important things you could walk away from this class from. Let's say you're going to take the developer associate certification, the blue hexagon on the right, this one right here. And you take the developing on AWS class. The class will only get you about 60 to 80% of the knowledge you need to pass the certification. Amazon doesn't say that enough. I'm saying it here. I hope you hear me, because just so you're aware, at every single level beyond the class, it's going to take you 20, 40, or 60 hours at these levels of additional study to actually pass the exam certification. That's about 5 hours a week. So that comes to about 4, 8, or 12 weeks worth of additional study. Now, can you go faster? Absolutely. But I want you to know is that the class is going to give you a lot of like prime exposure. And then you're going to get the certification study guide, which is going to give you the step-by-steps you need to do of additional study, including the practice exams, to pass the certification. So I just want to make sure that's super clear, is that while there are classes commonly associated with these certifications, they alone will not let you pass the certification. You have to just put in a little bit extra.
Hey, Michael, how
Yes.
much additional hours did you say for the specialty one? Was it 20 or 40 or 60?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So Cloud Practitioner, the black hexagon is at 20 hours of additional study. The blue hexagons are 40 hours of additional study. The green and the purples are all at 60 hours of additional study. So, yeah. In terms of difficulty, The cloud practitioner is 20 hours, and so that's one of the easiest ones relatively to pass. This level of exam at the associate's level, these are the 40 hours, and these out here in red, these are the ones that require 60 hours, these exams right here. Okay. Now that's an average. Some of you are going to take less time. Some of you are going to take more time, right? But in our experience, and I think we've passed, I don't know, like thousands at this point in time of students at Booz in particular, just know that this in general is what people take in order to pass the exams. Now, we're going to give you a path to get the expertise, which is how the system is supposed to work, a little bit of a path around experience, because it is assumed, by the way, that you're in the job role. So if you go take the machine learning exam and you haven't been a data scientist for 3 years, you're probably going to have a tough time, just so you're aware. So do note that they do expect you to have experience in these roles. Usually it's 6 months for fundamentals, a year for blue, 2 years for green, 3 years for the purple. Although I think they say 2 years in the thing, but it really is 3 to 5 years, honestly, for the purple exams. Okay. All of these exams are trivia exams, which means you have multiple right answer, multiple choice. The only one that doesn't really have that is this exam right here, which has multiple choice, multiple right answer, but it also has labs to it. This is the only one at present that has labs. Just know that others will soon have labs as the years progress, but SysOps Administrator's Associate is right now the only one that has a lab portion to it. These labs, by the way, all exist for 3 years. So once you get the certification, it extends for 3 years. If you get Cloud Practitioner and you decide that you get the Solutions Architect Associates exam, just know that that one will refresh this one. If you decide to go then for the professional exam, just know that if you pass this one, it will refresh this one. So even if you don't have the other exams, just know that if you do have them, it'll grant them to you. If you don't have the lower level exams and you take a higher level exam, it will not grant you that exam. You actually have to have it in order for it to get recertified or refreshed. Okay. And by the way, that's only true for the core exams. These exams over here in the purple, they do not refresh or extend or recertify any of these exams. Now, the cool thing about this particular web page, and I'm going to pick on developer for a second, is that all of these are pretty much 65 question exams. DevOps engineering has 75 questions, but each of these hexagons that is here is clickable. So if I click on DevOps Developer Associate, what will happen is it will immediately tell you the details around the exam. So it's 130 minutes, $150, which by the way is free for you for one time because of the exam voucher that you're going to get. It's 65 questions, but I just want to caveat that there's 65 questions on these exams, but only a portion of them are actually scored. You're like, what? Like, what does that mean? It means there's 65 questions, and like for this particular exam, only 50 of them are actually scored. Now, do you know which 50 of those are? No. My point being is that there's only 50 questions here that actually are part of this whole certification. So, you know, again, you'll see why that's relevant in just a second. On every single one of these web pages for each of these certifications, there's a link to the exam guide. This is one of the first things that you should look at. So I've already clicked on this to download it, but if I go ahead and open up the Developer Associates exam guide, what's going to happen is that this exam guide is going to help you figure out, one, who's the target candidate, how many years of experience should you have, ideally, what's the recommended general knowledge, what's the recommended AWS knowledge, what stuff is out of scope. For example, this is a developer exam, so design is not going to be a big part of the scope. Administering is not going to be a big part of the scope. Understanding security, it's not going to be a big part of the scope. Okay. Then it's going to tell you what's in the content, which mainly multiple choice, multiple response. Remember, all of these are the same except for SysOps Associates, which has labs in it. It's going to tell you, by the way, that this is going to be 50 questions that are going to affect your score, and there's going to be 15 unscored questions. Now, are you going to know which ones they are? No. So treat all the questions like they're serious, because you're going to have 15 questions that are not going to be relevant, but you're not going to know which ones those are. This is also going to tell you what the minimum passing score is, which in this case is 720 for the developer exam. Some of them are 750, like the DevOps engineering one, which actually I just sat for on Friday. So just passed it. Just a recertification. The other most important thing that's inside this exam guide, and by the way, there's one for each relevant exam, so make sure you click on that, is that it's going to tell you how much of this is going to be about application deployment, which is going to be about 22%, which out of 50 questions, that means 11 questions are going to be about deployment. For security, that means about 13 questions are going to be about deployment. Sorry, security. Development, basically at 30%, means that 15 questions are going to be about development, and refactoring, monitoring, and troubleshooting are going to have 5 questions and 6 questions respectively. Why? Because remember, only 50 questions count. Now, you're not going to know which of the are the 15 and which are the 50, so treat them all seriously. But this is how they derive at the weighting. So what this means is that you're going to have more questions on development of AWS services than you are refactoring. So it's good to read this guide, these domain guides, to know where you should optimize your time as far as study goes. You should be spending more time on development with services and security and deployment than you should be on refactoring, monitoring, and troubleshooting. But don't worry, we handled some of that in the study guide. Other things that are useful with the exam guide is that you should go ideally and look and see what's in their definition of each of the domains. What do they mean by deployment? What do they mean by security? If you read this and you notice that it says Beanstalk and you don't know anything about Beanstalk, well, go ahead and write down into your notepad or your study guide or whatever you're using to track your subjects for this, and note that you don't know anything about Elastic Beanstalk. So you might want to go do some reading about this in order to, become strong at it. If you see things like serverless application model, you don't know what that is, well, that's probably going to be worth Googling, right? Cognito, if you don't know what that is. In other words, my point is that this exam guide will not only tell you where you should spend your time, but it's also going to show you immediately whether you know these services or you don't. If you don't know these services, then you're going to want to write down that you saw it in the guide and go take a look at it. Go read the documentation, go Google it, go watch a video, and don't worry, we've got resources for that. So this is the exam guide. Again, in general, they're all about 65 questions. Some of them are just a little bit more. By the way, you usually either get 2 hours or 3 hours to actually take the exam. So for example, if you're taking machine learning, that's going to be a 180-minute exam. So 3 hours, right? 65 questions. Again, if we go look at the exam guide for this, note that we can go look and see, what do I need to pass? Well, in order to pass this, you need a 750. There are 15 unscored questions. 50 questions are going to count for your score. All right. So I hope you're sticking with me. Any questions thus far about where to find information about the exams? Do note that, by the way, there's our sample questions here as well. If you want to get a taste of that. Okay. I'm going to scroll back for just a second to go back to our original page. Let's talk a little bit about what to do with that exam voucher, which is the first of the 4 things that you typically get from us. The exam voucher obviously lets you take a free exam. How do you set that up? Here's how you do it. First of all, go to the AWS certification page, click on schedule an exam. Now, immediately it's going to say go to your account, but I'm just going to do this because I want you to see what it's going to look like for you. I'm going to sign out for just a second. Let's schedule an exam. It's going to say sign in. Now, if you don't have a login to this, right, then you're probably going to have to create at least an Amazon login. So just to be clear, if you have an Amazon account, and I'm not talking about like a booze Amazon account, I'm talking about, well, not an AWS account. I'm talking about you've ever shopped on Amazon.com. You've already got a login. You're going to be like, wait, hold on, Michael. I thought this was through Booz. Yeah, it is through Booz, but I want you to do this under your personal email because this is going to stick with you no matter where you're at. Okay. So you're going to see here, when I click on sign in, all of us are going to sign in on the left. On the left. That means using your Amazon account, not using the APN Partner Central account. So don't use that. Just use your Amazon account. So you're going to click on the left. And then what's going to happen is it's going to go into Amazon and say, hey, do you want to sign in? And so I'm going to switch to my IT Amazonian account because that's what I use to log in. And then what happens is I'm just going to say sign in for me. And by the way, that's a personal email address, right? It's not a Booz account. It's my email address. Once you get logged in using your Amazon email address, or your Amazon account, sorry, that sounds weird. You're going to click on go to your account, and this is going to redirect you to an account called Cert Metrics. This is where you're going to manage all of your stuff related to certification. So for example, if you have a profile, or if you want to register for an exam, or if you want to see your exam history, or if you want to see all your achieved certifications, this is all going to happen right here. Notice, by the way, that you can get your PDF certificates for any past certifications right here. If you want to see your score on an exam, by the way, you just go to exam history. And let's say, I think I downloaded Architecting Professional earlier. This will bring up, for example, that I took this on March 27th last year. I got an 871, right? By the way, the minute you take an exam, whether it's in a training center or at home, it will tell you immediately once you're done whether you've passed or you failed. It won't tell you the score, though. If you want to see the score, you got to wait 1 or 7 business days somewhere in there, and you got to come back here. It's going to send you an email. And you got to log back in and download your score report. I wish there was a better way to do that, but they haven't fixed that yet. So the score report under exam history is where you find your score, whether you've passed or you failed. Just note also that you're going to get a digital badge once you pass the exam, and that's going to be able to be posted inside your email signature or inside of LinkedIn or that kind of thing. Just be aware that they will be able to verify that you have a certification just by searching for your name or your particular number inside Credly. Also be aware that once you pass your first certification, you get free exam vouchers, you get 50% off your next exam, you get access to the LinkedIn community, you get all this other cool stuff, which is nice. But that's not why we came here. We came here because we wanted to register for an exam. Here's how you do it. First, you click on exam registration, and then it's going to give you a list of the exams that you could take. Now, notice I'm actually signed up for machine learning specialty because for some reason it didn't take my change, and it's still listing me as doing on January 27th. I should say January 23rd, but don't worry, it's going to switch soon, I'm sure. Now, you're going to come down here and you're going to pick your eligible exam. Let's say it's the Developer Associates. Now, you can schedule with PSI or Pearson VUE. I recommend Pearson VUE, particularly if you're going to do online. I'm not even sure that PSI even works anymore, to be frank about it. Pearson VUE, once you click on that link, it's going to log you in from Cert Metrics into Pearson VUE, and it's going to ask you whether you want to take this test at a testing center or if you want to take it online. Now, if Omicron wasn't surging through the United States, I'd say, honestly, a testing center is going to be the easiest way to do this. It's isolated. You don't have to change your environment. Everything's kind of like just kosher. It's easier to do. But most of us are going to do it online, which is what I did on Friday when I took the DevOps Engineering Pro exam. Please, please, please read through all of this because, for example, it only works on Windows. It doesn't work on Linux. I don't even know if it works on Mac. Do not use your booze machine to take these tests. Please grab another box. It doesn't have to be super fast. You know, there's no graphics or anything. It's just, it looks like a interface design in the 2000s.
Hey, Michael, quick comment. It does work on Mac. I took a test recently through the system and it works there.
Thank you. I didn't know if it did or not, actually. I appreciate that. I know it doesn't work on Linux, but thank you for clarifying. It does work on Mac. Perfect. Do note that also that your testing space has to be like, you can't have 2 monitors. You can't have a watch on. You can't, like, you know, they're trying to acoustically fingerprint and control the environment. So like, you can't see it, but over my left shoulder, there's a little table here. And this table, I have a laptop on it. That's where I took the exam on Friday, because all I needed was a laptop and some private space. You're gonna have to take pictures of all 4 sides of your desk. You're gonna have to take pictures underneath your desk. You have to take all the stuff off, no cameras, no monitors, except the bare essentials of what is needed for you to take the exam. So like anything you have on your desk, like, you know, headset, headphones, pins, all that comes off. Sometimes they're super tight about that. Sometimes they're less tight about it, but most of the time they're pretty tight. It's interesting. This is going to cover things like acceptable IDs, and you're going to show up for your exam 30 minutes early. So if you sign up at 2:15, you're going to show up at 1:45, especially if this is your first time. Why? Because you have to take pictures and give your ID and do all this stuff. And you don't want to do that stress. So just show up 30 minutes early and make it easy on yourself. Now, all this, by the way, is going to be sent to you in an email repeatedly the minute you sign up. So there's no way you're going to miss this unless you just ignore the emails. They're going to ask you your preferred language, which is great. They've got some options here. I like that. feel like they could add some more options, but we're gonna leave that alone. You're gonna confirm that this is the exam you want, and then you're gonna go through and you're gonna give away your genetic material, your firstborn, and any future lottery tickets that you ever win in your history of your life. I'm just kidding, obviously. They're just gonna ask you, like, can we do facial recognition? Can we, we're gonna know third parties, limited license, that kind of thing. And then they're gonna talk to you about the admissions policy, and they're gonna talk to you about the reschedule policy, the cancellation policy, and a variety of things that you really need to be aware of. So for example, you can only reschedule twice. The third time they're going to ask you to cancel. You can cancel up to 24 to 48 hours before the exam. I know it says 24, please do 48. Sometimes they don't allow you to cancel. Notice here that you cannot take a break. You can't drink anything. You cannot stand up or leave your workstation for any reason. You're not going to take scratch paper. You can't mumble, talk out loud, or put your hands on your face. Don't do this. I have a bad habit of talking to myself when I'm taking an exam. Okay, a company wants that. No, don't do that. Do not have anybody walk into the room. They'll give you a warning sometimes, and sometimes they'll fail you. And you can't have a pet running around, especially if they have like a collar on, it's making a bunch of noise. That will drive them insane. I found that out the hard way. Okay. I know it make it sound like really harsh, but just letting you know how it is. Once you agree to all of this fabulous stuff, what will happen is they're going to ask you what language you want to speak, which there's only two, which I don't know. Nihongo takemasu ka? I feel like they should have more, but whatever. They got English, Japanese. Here you go. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pick which of the dates you want, including the time. So let's say I want to do it on Sunday. And I usually pick 24 hours so don't get confused about AM and PM. Let's say I want you to pick the time, by the way, when you are the sharpest without coffee. So if you're falling asleep in the afternoon after lunch, probably means that you probably shouldn't take the exam in the afternoon. Now I'm really sharp at 9:15, so let's just choose 9:15. Then they're going to confirm that this is what you wanted. You want it in English. This is your times. You want to change it. This is what's going to cost. If you want to add another exam, you can. And then you can proceed to checkout. This is the place we are going to stick the exam code into the system. When you put it here and then you hit apply, all of this billing information goes away. No more need for billing information because your exam is now free. And then you hit next, which I can't do unless I actually want to purchase it. Well, you hit submit after that. And then you hit submit. And then what happens is that it's going to send you a bunch of emails. It's going to send you an email saying, hey, welcome to Pearson VUE. This is what you have to do. Please check out your system. Please make sure you have an acceptable space. The very next thing that I recommend that you do is put this on your calendar. Carve out 30 minutes ahead of time. Carve out some time if you need to transport, if you're going to a testing center. And carve out some time after you do this test to decompress, because especially if you're doing a pro or a specialty exam, your brain's not going to be worth a whole lot after this. So let the kids know, let the wife know, partner, whatever, right? So they're going to send you an email, by the way, 7 days before, 4 days before, typically the day before, and then the morning of. So you're going to get a bunch of emails reminding you that, hey, you need to take some action because they want you to get prepared for this exam. Okay. That's it. That's how you sign up for the exam. Just a reminder that the voucher promotion code that you get is going to go here, and you're going to get it probably a day or two after you get access to your student portal. Now, Booz has not placed all of you in your respective classes yet. So some of you may not get access to your student portal as late as like Friday or Monday of next week, but they're moving really fast. So you're going to see emails come in. If you got an email from a gentleman named Greg Wagner, who is basically the amazing account liaison for Booz Allen, he's been working with them for a while. You can always email greg.wagner@webhsolutions.com if you get stuck. You can also email support if you need a technical support with any kind of the WebAge stuff. And then, of course, you can always email me at michael.forrester@webhsolutions.com if you ever need any kind of support related to certification. By the way, you're also going to have access to your instructor, so feel free to email them as well. Any questions thus far about where to get exam information about your certifications, how to sign up, and what to do with the exam voucher?
When will we get the exam voucher?
So you get it probably 1 or 2 days after you get signed up for your student portal, which again is going to be variable because Booz is still putting you in your respective classes. So no later than Friday or Monday is when you should get the student portal, and 1 to 2 days after that.
Are we going to be sent all these the links for the study guides and everything else?
Yep. So what's going to happen is when you get access to the student portal is going to have all the documentation and all of the instructions for how to create access to supplemental labs and how to get access to the practice exams. So everything that I'm talking about is going to be redundantly given to you inside your student portal as well. And this is going to be a video link inside there as well, in case I say something that isn't captured there. Good. Anything else before we move on to the study guide? Cool. All right, let's talk about the study guide. So I'm going to give you a sample of one of the study guides that you're going to see inside your portal. What did I do with that whole thing? Hold on one second. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is the study guide for developer associates that we ran last summer. Yours is going to look remarkably like this. Like, I'm probably shocked if there was any difference. By the way, the class is at the top. The class can be taken at any time. So if your class hasn't been scheduled yet and you're going to take it in 2 weeks, please start studying now. You don't have to wait for the class. That's not necessary. You can start studying this material at any point in time. This is the 20, 40, or 60 hours that you're going to need to spend. It goes in 3 general phases. First phase, expertise building. So notice, by the way, that they've got white papers here. There's some digital trainings. On some of them, there's actual extra labs. But your first phase is that you're going to build your expertise by doing the digital trainings and doing the white papers. So you're going to read them. If you're at the associates level and below, you're going to digest the white papers in broad strokes, meaning just get some of the detail, the high level pieces, understand what the, for example, pricing is, and the well-articulated framework. If you're at the professional or the specialty level, you're going to have to memorize. You're going to have to study these white papers because your knowledge is going to be required to be just a little bit deeper. Do you need to memorize every single detail? Please don't. Unless you're taking the security exam, if you're taking the machine learning exam, hopefully you've been in the role for 2 to 3 years. So you already know what you need to know about machine learning outside of AWS. Now, continuing down this path, at some point in time, you're going to hit this orange level, which says supplemental labs, right? Hands-on labs, supplemental labs. What this is that this is the third thing that you're going to be given as being a Booz employee. And so if you go to amazon.quicklabs.com, which I'm going to post the link for that into chat. If you go and create an account using your Booz email. So notice this is the only time I've said that you have to use your Booz email is here. This is the only one. Every other login or whatever, you can use whatever email you want. But if you log into Quick Labs, either through Amazon or through WebAge, which is the other link that people use for classes, you have to use your Booz Allen email address. If you don't, you won't get access to the free labs that are here. Now, once you log in, after you create your account and you log into your account, what you're going to see is that you're going to see that you have credits underneath your profile. Just know these credits are going to go up and down because everybody who's taking a class with WebAge with AWS gets access to free labs inside of AWS, inside of this Quick Labs section. So your credits are going to go up and down, but just know that WebAge is really good about when the credits get low, they refresh them. And so to date, I haven't had any complaints about people running out of credits. If that happens, just email support and they'll fix it pretty quickly. Do note that the reason this is significant for those of you, particularly at the associates level and below, is let's say you've never touched CloudFront before. And this is on the exam for, let's say, architecture. Now, this lab happens to be free, but some of the labs are 8 credits and 10 credits. That's $8 or $10. What you can do is you can come in here and actually start a lab, and it will actually provision lab resources for you. And once it's done, it'll have a button to log you into your own private AWS account just for the life of this lab. And then this little timer is going to start. And you have 55 minutes to do this lab before everything's going to get deleted. From here, you're going to create an S3 bucket under task 1. Task 2, you're going to follow the directions for creating CloudFront distribution. Then you're going to create a link to your object and then delete your distribution and delete your bucket. Now, this is a really simple lab. It's not going to cost you a whole lot to do this, but know that some of the labs are really complex. I was hoping that this would finish so I could actually show you. Yeah, it might take a second. Oh, here it is. So here, if I open the console, notice that it's going to automatically log me in as AWS student. By the way, it might ask you to switch to the new console home. Please do not do that unless the quick lab instructions say so. AWS is constantly changing the console, which makes the instructions at quick labs hard to follow. Please don't switch to the new console unless they say so, which I don't think they're there yet. But notice in the upper right-hand side, it says AWS student. You are now logged into a private account just for this lab. If you are logged into another AWS service, please log out of it before you start the quick labs. Just makes things a little easier for you. Once you're done, which is at the very in lab section, you just click on in lab, click on submit, say it was great. I wonder why they're doing that. And you're done. Oops, didn't mean to close that actually. So still logged in. So this catalog of AWS classes is fabulous. If you're like, hey, I've never really touched any serverless apps before, there's a bunch of high-end serverless apps that you can do, like serverless design with a Lambda, troubleshooting serverless applications. You could use Poly, Recognition is out here. I wouldn't say that everything is out here, like SageMaker is out here, nor is like ML or A2I. So you're not going to find all the ML services out here. And I don't think there's any code services out here. But don't worry, that's why you're going to, if you're at the professional or specialty level, you're going to create your own free AWS account because AWS expects you to manage your own account at that level, a free account, a free tier account, sorry. And so just know if you're at the pro or the specialty level, you should have your own AWS account under your personal email address. Please, please, please do not create an AWS account under your Booz Allen Hamilton email address. You will get a call from security and they're going to be nice about it, but they're going to be stern. What billing code does this fall under? What is this for? Let's avoid all that. Okay. So if the first is the exam voucher, which I showed you earlier how to log into, and then I showed you a sample of the certification study guide, which is what this is, then the third is example of these supplemental labs, which again are going to be, instructions are going to be on your portal. But right now you could create an account using your bah.com email address, and you can get access to all of these AWS labs. This is free to you and available for as long as you're a Booz Allen employee. So just be aware when you leave Booz, this obviously goes away when you leave. Wow, that was foreboding, wasn't it? If you leave Booz, you lose access to this, but you have access to this indefinitely.
Should we not use our Booz Allen computer for this either, or?
No. You can use your Booz Allen computer for this, fine.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, Zscaler will block it for half a second, but that's it. So yeah, otherwise you're fine. The reason I don't want you using your Booz Allen computer for the exam is because if Zscaler blocks you, you're going to get kicked out of the exam. And if that lasts for 30 minutes or more, the exam is automatically forfeit. So, you know, I don't want you to run into that risk. I have many horror stories of people using their Booz laptops for this and they got kicked out of the exam and they lost it. So yeah. You know, sometimes Pearson VUE will give you credit, but most of the time they won't.
So one thing to note with the Booz laptop, when you go to create your free tier account with your own email, it is going to give you a Booz Allen pop-up warning that says, if you're creating this for a client, basically, make sure you're doing it through Booz, but you can just close that out and create your free one.
I did not know that, Craig. Thank you for sharing that. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So they must intercept the request and say, hey, by the way.
Yeah, Zscaler must see it going through on the URL and it gives you a pop-up.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. By the way, when you create your own free account, to Greg's point, just as a word of caution, when you run resources inside your account, please just run them for the life cycle for as long as you're paying attention. In other words, if you're going to run a lab and it's going to take you an hour, but all of a sudden you get interrupted and have to walk away, if you're going to walk away for 5 minutes, that's fine. If you're going to walk away for half a day or a day, please just go in and stop the resource in question. Because while you're not going to spend hundreds of dollars just for a single day's worth of resources, you could end up spending more money than you want. And so please, if you're in the middle of a lab, do not leave resources running. Most of the labs that we're going to give you inside the certification study guides, they're going to cost you somewhere between 10 cents and 25 cents for an entire set of labs. But if you leave resources running, you could end up spending, $1, $5, $20. You might be like, oh, Michael, I don't really care about that. But everything you do inside AWS either has a billing or security implication. So, it's a good practice just to be mindful of that. Okay. Especially if you're running your own account, just be aware. Also know that you can set up budget limits and other things inside your AWS account, which is great practice, because unless you're running a client account, to like Craig's point, most of the time, if you're running a booze account, you're never going to see all the ins and outs of billing that you have to do, which is why AWS wants you to pretty much run your own account at the professional and specialty level. Okay. So thanks, Craig, for sharing that. I had no idea they did a pop-up. That's good to know. All right, questions thus far about either the exam voucher, the study guide, which you're going to have in your student portal, or the supplementary labs that you get access to?
I've been signed up for the end of January class, but I haven't received any study guides, so I should be expecting that about how far in advance.
Typically, you're probably going to get it over the next 1 or 2 days. If you've been assigned to a class, you should see that really soon. I would say no more than probably 48 hours or so. Yeah. The reason is that Booz is still kind of finalizing the cohorts of where everybody's going. So even though you've been assigned to a class, just to say this, sometimes they can change. So we're going to see where everybody lands, but you should be within a day or two. One thing worth mentioning is that if you're linked, for example, what is the well-architected labs? If, for example, you're doing the SA Pro and inside your certification study guides, it links you to one of the public lab sites that Amazon has, this will require you to have your own account. Amazon will not provide an account for you. So be aware that if you're like, hey, I need to go kick the tires on operational excellence, which is one of the pillars of the well-architected framework, and I want to learn how to do automated operations with playbooks and runbooks, right? In order to do this lab, you're going to have, for example, your own AWS account that you're going to use for testing. Okay. So most of these labs, by the way, will cost you less than 25 cents to run. Again, reminder, please don't leave resources running. I just don't like people to get shocked. I don't know if in the history anyone's ever sent me an email and said, oh my God, I spent, $2 or whatever. I don't think I've gotten that, but the only reason I haven't is because I keep saying this. Please pay attention to what you're spending inside of AWS. Okay. Every one of these labs, by the way, has a tear down or closeout section that will allow you to tear down everything that's inside your account. Okay. If you run into any problems with that at all, let us know. But to date, we haven't gotten a single email. These things all work. Right. Okay. So in your certification study guide, eventually you're going to get to the point where it's going to say supplemental labs, which is something we mentioned before. So you've got expertise building, then you've got experience building with the labs. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to do exam practice. Now, notice in this case, this was like a really foreshortened guide that didn't really have any time attached to it, but you have at least 2 weeks, if not more, of exam practice. Here's why this is important. The practice exams are provided by a company called Tutorials Dojo. And we're not really in partnership with them. We just like their exams because John Bonzo, the genius behind this particular company, has a photographic memory. And he actually works with AWS to make sure that he doesn't violate any of their constraints. He doesn't want to get in trouble with them. But what he does is he has the best exam questions we've ever seen. And Stefan Merrick is awesome. Nick Vestroni is awesome. They're all great, right? But just to say this, we have passed hundreds, if not thousands of students with Tutorials Dojo, and we really recommend it. And there's a couple reasons why. By the way, you're going to get this for free. So you're also going to get a voucher. It's like a promo code. So you can actually create an account here you don't have to use your Booz account email for this, by the way. And you're going to get access to the specific practice exams that you need to pass the exam. Let me give you an example of this. So for example, under practice exams, he has a bunch of them. And what these exams provide to you, it's more than just practice exam. So for example, this is the, oh, that's the solution architect. Hold on one second. Here's the cloud practitioner, right? Foundation level exam, well beneath the exams that you all are looking at right now. Let's say we go pick on this for a second. So the reason John is so good at this is that like most of them now, I think they're pretty homogenized. His questions, first of all, are just so accurate. He doesn't give you the exact question on the exam, but he changes it enough so that when you do take it, you're ready. When I took the DevOps engineering exam on Friday, probably fully half the questions were variations of the questions that John had already tested me on when I took the DevOps engineering practice exams. But this is cloud practitioner. So let's say you're trying to figure out which of the following is a threat detection service that monitors for malicious activity and behavior to protect your accounts and your workloads. Well, a threat detection service, huh? Which of these could it be? Let's take a swag here and just say, it must be guard duty, right? So guard duty's job, by the way, is to guard your VPCs and look for malicious network traffic and threats. So, and it does use machine learning for this. So the cool thing is that John's going to give you, first of all, the right answer, why it's the right answer. Then he's going to tell you why all the other answers are wrong, which is just as important, because you might have thought that shield was the answer. That's probably because you didn't know what shield is, right? This is going to tell you why shield is wrong, right? Because shield is mainly a distributed denial of service system, protection service, right? And then he's going to tell you why this is the right answer based on what he knows from the AWS documentation. And then if he has a cheat sheet because you keep missing questions about guard duty, you're not going to go take a look at the cheat sheet and get a better feel for what guard duty is, right? So in this case, here are his cheat sheets. Basically tells you what they use, what is this all about, what the difference is between guard duty and Macy, how the findings work, all those pieces. Okay. So I want you to hang out with me for a second. So, because I'm going to do some of the cloud practitioner questions, then I'm going to do some of the SA Pro questions, and then I'm going to do some of the machine learning questions so that all of you can get an idea of what these exams look like. Before I do that, does anyone have any questions about either the exam voucher, the certification study guide, the supplemental labs, or questions about these practice exams? No? Okay. Ask it anytime something pops in your head. Okay, so which of the following are best practices that can help secure your AWS resources using the IAM service, which is the Identity and Access Management Service? So which two, because remember this is multiple right answer, which two of these make sense for you? Well, just know, by the way, is that first of all, you can exclude some answers. So granting most privilege is definitely not going to be it. Using inline policies instead of customer managed policies? That doesn't sound right. Lock away your AWS account root user access keys. Well, true, but honestly, you should never have those to begin with. Use bastion hosts. What does that have to do with IAM exactly? I don't know. It doesn't have to do with logging into SSH, like RDP in the boxes. So just by exclusion, by the way, if I were to take these away, it looks like locking away your root user access keys, which honestly, you shouldn't even have those, but that's definitely. And then granting least privilege looks like that would be like two possible answers. But maybe I'm just making it up. Maybe I don't know. So let's check it out, right? And here you go. There's the two right answers. So then you can see exactly what IAM is. And then you can see like, these are all the things they recommend, right? MFA, least privilege, lock away your account, create individual IAM users. And then here the, like, you can see why these are the wrong ones, right? And then here's your references and here's your cheat sheet.
Is there partial credit for any of these if there's multiple choice or multiple choice?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, there's no partial credit. You don't get penalized for answering wrong, but you don't get partial credit. Okay, question. All right, so this one I'm going to open up to the floor, right? So A, B, C, D, or E. Which of these services are going to help you create a highly available and scalable web app in the cloud? So which two of these are focused extensively on scalability? And if you've ever taken a class from me, by the way, this is a secret sauce for EC2 instances.
I'd guess the auto scaling one.
Auto scaling sounds like one since it's got scaling in the name. That sounds like that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
All right, what's the other?
Maybe the
Yeah,
cloud
the
front.
balance,
Wait, say that again, Steve.
elastic load balancer,
Elastic load balancer.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not
well,
sure.
honestly, auto scaling is typically used with an ELB. So you usually don't find those two separate from each other. So, and it is used for load distribution. It also can enable scalability, right? Now, the funny thing is that CloudFront definitely reduces latency as well, right? So, you might think that that's a possible answer. AppStream, I'm going to leave alone, right? Just for a second, just ignore that. And then CloudWatch, right? CloudWatch is used for monitoring, so we know that's off. AppStream, by the way, is used to stream apps, basically. It's usually to share apps. So let's take a guess here, right? And say, is it these two? And it is, because those two go together like peanut butter and chocolate. And then what will happen is that if we scroll down here and say, look, this is a streaming service that allows you to push applications across the wire into your desktop. So AppStream, by the way, in streaming, application streaming has been around since like 2010, 2011. This allows you to just like project Office into your desktop without having to run it locally. That's definitely not what we're talking about. CloudFront is not really the appropriate one because CloudFront definitely, in a sense, like allows you to do caching and distribution, and it reduces latency. I think it does, to a certain degree, allow you to scale, right? But it's really not as the best answer compared to load balancing and auto scaling. So, but it is a web app, so technically CloudFront would work. Okay. All right, let's do the next one. Company plans to migrate their on-premise MySQL database to RDS. Which service should they use to migrate their on-premise database to RDS? If you don't mind typing it in the chat for me. A, B, C, or D? Good, I see people were putting DMS. Sounds like it says head in the right direction. Let's see. Now, Direct Connect's not the answer because that's networking, right? Server migration service, well, we're not migrating the entire server. We just need the database to go. Besides, we're going to RDS, so the SMS is not going to work for that, right? SCT is when you want to migrate from one database to the next. But let me ask you a question. Does RDS run MySQL? Can it run MySQL?
Yes, it can.
Absolutely. Yeah. So DMS is most likely the right answer. There you go. Good. So that's just, by the way, the Cloud Practitioner exam. So that's just the fundamental exam. By the way, if you don't have this one, if you want it, you probably could go for it, right? At some point in time during your studying. This exam doesn't require a whole lot other than just knowledge of AWS services and the general advantages of cloud computing. That's it. Now let's switch gears for a second. Let's go up a notch.
Hey, Michael, I have a question about that. So you get a voucher, right, for the exam that you're supposed to be doing, but would you get one for the fundamentals if you wanted to do that?
Unfortunately, Amazon's not offering one for the fundamentals right now for the Cloud Practitioner, but you just need to talk to your manager because most likely they'll reimburse you for it, frankly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's $75, so yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying to link it up with if you wanted to do those lower exams and versus the voucher that they were giving you.
Yeah, the voucher unfortunately doesn't cover that. I wish it did. I don't even know if I've seen a voucher on that yet. Let's choose the Solutions Architect Associates exam.
Michael,
By the
sorry,
way-
can I ask a quick question?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Steve.
So I heard from some people, and I mean, it sounds correct, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. So a lot of people say, like, if you're planning on going for a higher level exam, that Cloud Practitioner is not, necessarily necessary, I guess would be the question. Do you think that's true, or is it still worthwhile?
It's not necessary, but let me just offer this little piece of interesting advice or insight, because this really caught me off guard, honestly. So let me go to my account really quick. So as some of you know, actually, hold on. As some of you know, I actually took the DevOps engineering exam on Friday, right? I just want to point out something that maybe you're not aware of. So I took the DevOps engineering professional exam, and you can see on this page that I took it January 14th, which is Friday. Now look what happened to my other lower level certifications as a result. They all recertified automatically. All of my lower level certifications underneath that path, they all re-extended as a result. Now, if that doesn't matter to you, then like, who cares? But I just want to say this is that if you get the cloud practitioner and you take DevOps associates and you pass it, it recertifies your cloud practitioner. If you go for DevOps engineering, it recertifies your SysOps, your DevOps, your dev engineer, and your cloud practitioner. So for me, it's worth it because people like to see, like, the, you know, obviously if I'm teaching people, people like to know that I have all the certifications. I'm still required to take all the certifications, so it's not like I can rely on that recertification. But if I wasn't working in training and I was just doing purely consulting, which is half of what I do, frankly, having those certifications just recertify themselves would be super appealing, because then I wouldn't have to waste my time going back to take the tests. Now I have to do that anyway. But for you all, having the lower level certifications carries more merit, because people do love that in consulting. They love to see that you have a certain number of certifications, especially if there are hard ones, like, you know, the professional level exams or the CKA level exams, right? Not that the associates levels aren't hard, but people like it when you suffer a little bit to get your certifications. So just know that I personally think it's worth it to get the lower level certifications. Not necessarily for bragging rights, but just because it's great to just verify, hey, I know all this stuff, right? So, you know, that's up to you. Booz loves certifications. So you're not going to go wrong with Booz if you decide to get the lower level certifications. They're going to love it. So that's just my experience in my 2 years of working with Booz. So hope that helps.
It does, thanks.
Yeah. In case you missed that, by the way, what this means is that if you take any of the higher level exams and you have the lower level certifications, it automatically recertifies and extends your lower level certifications. This does not happen with the purples, only with the greens, the blues, and the blacks. Okay. So professional, associate, cloud practitioner. Okay. So let's switch gears. I think I had it set up and then I lost it. I'm going to close my tab since I'm out tabbing myself here. Let's see, that's the professional level, which we're going to wait for a second. Aha, here we go. So this is the review mode set for the certified solutions architect. So let me show you what an associates level test looks like, because you've seen a foundational one. I'm going to show you an associates, then I'm going to show you a professional, and then I'm going to show you some machine learning, because I know I got data scientists on here. I know you're out here. Okay. So let's say we get into the certified solutions architect associates review mode set 1. Huh, sorry, I don't know if I clicked on the link or if John's just having a website issue. Oh, here we go, waiting now.
It seems to be spinning at the top.
Here we go. All right, so let's say we get into these and let's say we go straight to this question. So a local bank has an in-house application. Notice this is a bigger question now, right? It's got a little bigger. Handle sensitive financial data in a private subnet. So you got to know what a private subnet is. After the data is processed by the EC2 worker instances, they will be delivered to S3 for ingestion by other services. How should you design the solution so data does not pass through the public internet? By the way, without even looking at the answer, if you know, like, you should probably know what the answer is, like right off the bat. So without even looking at these, I can tell you right off the bat, it's going to have something to do with S3 endpoints, like either VPC endpoints, either an interface endpoint or a gateway endpoint. So I haven't even looked at the answers yet. I just know it has something to do with endpoints. Why? Because endpoints are designed for this particular use case, which means I don't want to pass traffic across the internet, but I still need to access public AWS services. How do I do that? Endpoints are the answer. So by looking down here, I know automatically that this is probably not going to be it. This isn't going to be it. This isn't going to be it, but hold on. There it is, right? So if I click on this, because maybe I'm just making it up, right? We automatically know that endpoints are going to be the answer. Because by the way, this is for network redirection. It's like a routing table, basically. It's really cool, actually. This, by the way, is an internet gateway. So this is used to connect the internet to and from. So that's going to route traffic across the internet. This is also used to send traffic across the internet, but it's definitely not going to be in a private subnet. So that's not even going to work to begin with. So even by exclusion, I can know that the VPC endpoint is going to be it. Notice that that was a bigger, deeper question. That's the associate's level test, right? Let's take a look at another one. And this time I want you to take a shot at answering. All right, get a news company planning to use hardware security module in AWS for secure key storage of their web application. We have launched the cluster, but after a few hours, they attempt to log in as the administrator 3 times using an invalid password into the HSM. This caused the HSM to zero itself out, which means the encryption keys have been wiped. Unfortunately, you don't have a copy of the keys anywhere. How can you obtain a new copy of the keys that you have stored on the HSM? So in chat, if you don't mind, A, B, C, or D? First of all, if A was true, whew, that breaks a lot of trust, doesn't it? AWS better not have access to my encryption keys. Now, don't get me wrong, they could have access to the physical hardware, so it's not like could never happen, but they try to make sure that it's not possible, right? So a lot of you guessed D, right? So let's take a shot here and see if that's true, right? And the answer is, of course. If you lose your encryption keys and you have no copies, you're done. I mean, that's the way encryption works until quantum computing reaches a certain critical mass, right? So no one's going to crack that. So hopefully this gives you a good feel of what this kind of looks like. I want to pop over just one of the professional level questions, just to give you an example. So here's pro. So I'm going to pop over to one of these questions to give you an example. So notice how this is much longer. At the professional level, your question has gotten much longer, a lot bigger. So this is a data scientist running in a MapReduce cluster. It's going to be run once, 300 terabytes of data, 200 EC2 instances for 8 hours. The resulting data set must be stored temporarily until it is permanently stored into the AWS Redshift database. What do we do? Run once, huh? But run for about 8 hours. Okay, I'm going to take a guess and say this is going to be on-demand nodes. Yep, that's probably what I would use actually right there. But let's see, maybe I'm wrong. No, that looks right. Yeah. So we're going to use on-demand nodes for the master nodes, and we're going to use spot instances for the task nodes, right? So obviously I just quick answered that, but that's, you have to know what spot and on-demand are used for at the professional level immediately in that context, right? So that's the Solution Architect Pro. And then unfortunately, I'm kind of running out of time. I can't do machine learning. I totally apologize, my data scientists, but don't worry, you're going to get access. Imagine a much longer data science focused question, just like you did on a professional, okay? It's 3:59, so I'm just letting you know that we covered exam vouchers, how to log into the exam and schedule it. We covered the certification study guides. We talked about supplemental labs, and then we talked about the practice exams, which you got a sample for here. A reminder, you're going to take the review mode exams, 2 sets of these exams until you can get 90%. Why? Because once you get that 90% on 2 of the review mode sets of exams, you're ready to take the exam. If you can't get 90% on these review mode exams, you're not ready to take the exam. Be like, Michael, I need a 750. Why 90? Because you're going to lose points because the questions aren't the same, and you're going to be nervous because it's going to be a serious test, and you're going to get tired at the end. You're also going to lose points for that. So just be aware that these practice exams at the very end are going to train you to take the exam. And this is the last step, is to make sure you can get 90% on 2 of these review mode exams, and you're going to be ready to go. If you've never touched AWS infrastructure before, you're going to see if you can do 3 review mode exams, but not more than that, 2. Okay. So that's it. I'm Michael Forster. It's 4 o'clock. I know you have to run off to other things. I'm going to hang here in case you have other questions. You can email me at michael.forster@webhsolutions.com if you need to. Otherwise, send me an email when you pass the exam or post it into your communications. Questions?
So, quick question. Where did you say you're going to send the link for this training?
For the practice exams?
No, for this session. I was driving, so I was listening, but I wasn't watching.
Oh, it's going to be posted in your student portal.
And when do we get access to the student portal?
So you're either going to get access in the next 48 hours. It might be close to Friday or Monday, simply because Booz is finalizing class selection for some of you. So
Okay, so we can't access it yet then. Okay,
if you don't have an email on it, you haven't seen it yet, but some of you have an email on it. I know.
okay.
So if you don't see it by Monday, you should send an email to Greg or myself. Okay.
Okay.
Other questions?
So the study guide contains all the supplemental information that we'll need outside of the class itself to be
Yep.
prepared. Again.
Yep, including the portal. The portal is also going to have information and instructions on it. If it's not clear, please feel free to email me, but between the video and the instructions that are in the student portal, you should be good to go, Eric.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you say where we'll have access to the recordings?
Yeah, you're going to have access to the recordings in the YouTube link that's going to get posted inside your student portal. So once you get access to the student portal, you'll have access to the recordings.
Until then, would you recommend for us to go on YouTube and watch a few videos on this? Would it be good?
I would say go grab the exam guide for your relevant exam guide and figure out what's your actual, like, which technologies are listed there that you're not familiar with. And you're all, I think that's a good idea. You could go grab it on YouTube. You could go read the AWS documentation, but go look at the exam guide for your exam and figure out which words are in there that you've never heard before. And those are the ones you want to focus on.
Okay.
Can you post the exam guide URL real fast too?
Well, the exam guide URL is actually varied widely by
Okay.
exam. So what I'm going to do is I'll post the certification link here, and you can click into the certification like tile, and it will actually take you to the exam guide link.
Thank you much.
Absolutely. Good. For those of you who need to run, please run. I'm going to hang out for a few minutes longer just to make sure that all your questions are answered, unless anybody has anything else.
Do you think we could do the machine language test?
Oh,
Since
yeah.
you're hanging out?
Absolutely. Since we're hanging out, let's do it. But anybody, by the way, can ask a question at any time, so don't let that slow you down. Where are you? My brain's not working. There we are. All right. So review mode exams only. So you're not going to do time mode or any of the others. And there's only 2 sets of questions for the DevOps engineering and for machine learning. Let's go take a look at these. I think I was messing around with these earlier because I actually have to take the test myself. Oh, that's right. I was showing this earlier to people. So note, like, for example, machine learning specialist needs to analyze census data curated from online surveys that determine the healthcare and social needs programs per city. The extracted information will be used to create targeted campaigns for different cities in Asia. Which of the machine learning algorithms should the specialist use to gain actionable insights? So my machine learning people, what would you say? Is it PCA? Is it K-means algorithm? What's the other ones here? Is it the LDA algorithm, or is it random cut forest? Which ones? Factorization machines, I forgot that one as well. Let's see. Let's take a swag here. I don't think it's K-means or any of that, but I'm just going to like click one, but here it is, right? PCA, right? Which is basically talks about like it as being an unsupervised machine learning program versus supervised, right? And then the other component, right, is the K-means algorithm, which is also the reducing the data set, right, to create similarities in like data set groupings in similar counties, for example. And then we'll talk about why factorization machines and random cut forest and latent derelict allocation are not like appropriate. And then of course it'll give the links to SageMaker and the SageMaker cheat sheet. Okay, here's one more. We'll do one more and then I'll cut it off. Is that machine learning specialists have received 20,000 unlabeled images to train an object detection model. So that's interesting. They're unlabeled. It's an unlabeled data set, which by the way, kind of tells you which machine learning type in general you're going to use. The specialist has a current team of 5 human labelers. Due to resource and budget constraints, the specialist chooses to leverage a trained labeling model from a previous job to annotate the images. What's the best course of action? So here you got some interesting things, which it says we're going to label the data set, use the model, and use those with a low confidence score to S3. That sounds weird, because if I'm not really confident into them, why would I send them to S3? You can outsource the thing to Mechanical Turk. Amazon doesn't like non-automated options, so that doesn't sound great. Label the data set using the trained model and send those images with low confidence score to S3, then have ground truth label them. That sounds cool. Outsource the test from a private workforce to 50 labelers. Use the trained model for low confidence scores. Finally, use the filters data set to train the object detection model. Now, here's what you need to know. SageMaker ground truth is actually used to label data sets. So if I were to speculate, that's probably going to be the answer, because you do want to stick it on S3. And then Neo, by the way, does inferences. So that doesn't make any sense. But ground truth actually does labeling for unlabeled data sets. So it makes a lot of sense to use ground truth. So that gives you an example, by the way, of the things you're going to have to answer as a data scientist. Is you got to know all these models, all the algorithms. When do you use them? When do you don't use them? Okay. Hopefully that was useful. Was that useful, Odette? Hope you get a sample.
Yeah. It just shows that I have a lot of studying to do.
You and me both. So we'll be knocking this out together, because I actually have to take this in a couple days, like 10 days or so. So
Good luck.
thank you. Back at you. Yeah. So again, there's only 2 review mode set exams, Odette. So make sure that you do both of them. I got to tell you, just doing the review mode set exams alone will teach you a lot about what you do and do not know about data science, which then can allow you to hone in on further study. So I actually took one of these exams and got like a 43 on it. I was like, man, I do not know what I need to know here. And so then I just went through SageMaker and went through the other pieces, went back through the certification study guide. And I think the last time I took it, I was scoring like a 75 or something, which is still not good enough, but better, right? So cool. All right. Well, unless there's other questions.
Hey, Michael, this is Randy Swartz. I had to step away for a minute, so I apologize if you already covered it, but just had a question in regards to professional versus associate. Is there anything, I'm looking at the solutions architect professional exam, are there topics or anything covered in that exam, or covered in the associate exam that's not covered on the professional exam? I'm wondering if I feel confident on maybe just going through the material that would be on the associate. Does it make sense to put the extra effort in to actually get this cert in terms of actually coming away with the knowledge in the end, not maybe looking good on paper?
Yeah, I would say that if you haven't taken an associate's level exam, you should definitely take one before you take a pro exam, just to say this. I know very few people who go straight to pro or specialty and are successful at that. Yeah, just to say this, like at least it didn't even matter if it was solutions architect associates, just taking one of the associates exams is useful. That being said, there are things covered in associates that are not covered in the professional level exam, because they assume that you already know it, because you need to know it in order to answer the questions for pro. So yeah, if you're already on target for the associates level exam, I would stick with that and then go straight for the pro right after, because some of the material, about 20%, is going to translate into the pro exam. But if you don't already have the associates level, I would say just get the associates level first. Because the pro exam for SA Pro, for example, is a level 8 or 9 exam. The associates level exam is like a level 4 exam. So it is order of magnitudes harder to do the pro exam.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like it'd be helpful in preparation on top of all that too. So
yeah, and if you look at the ramp up guide that AWS publishes for this, they actually recommend that you get the practitioner, then the associates. They recommend that you follow the path, because that will build your foundations as you go. But you don't need the foundations. You can just do SA associates. You don't need to get cloud practitioner.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, I know. I wish we could go straight in, but your probability of success is going to be higher. Philip, you were asking about where can you access the recording. The recording is going to be on the student portal, which should be released in anywhere from like 1 to 5 business days. Good. Yeah. Good. All right, everyone. Have a fabulous Tuesday. Email me when you pass. Otherwise, we'll catch you at the next class. So everyone have a fabulous afternoon. All right. Take care.